As you probably know, The Weeknd is currently in the process of rolling out his 6th and final studio album, Hurry Up Tomorrow. And if you've seen my 2024 albums I'm excited for video, you know that I was unbelievably hyped for this record to drop earlier this year. But as much as I hate to say it, now that we're assumedly reaching the end of this album's rollout, I'm starting to worry about the quality of the project when it eventually does drop. Now, just a few disclaimers. I'm a massive Weeknd fan, first of all. I think House of Balloons is like a 10 out of 10 record, After Hours is a modern classic, and this new trilogy has been nothing but fireworks so far. However, I'm not just gonna blindly support everything involving this new record. If anything, I'm gonna be even more critical, given this new album is meant to be the final album in this new trilogy and the final Weeknd album ever. And truthfully, I think there's been a lot of changes made that have slowly but surely killed my excitement for this inevitable release. Now, I've thought a lot about how I want to structure this video since I've got a bunch of miscellaneous gripes with the whole thing that aren't super connected, but after some thinking, I've gone with this. We'll start by going through my thoughts on all 3 of the singles that we've gotten for Hurry Up Tomorrow so far, and then tackle some final complaints that I couldn't fit under any of the singles specifically. So yeah, let's just start talking about the album's lead single, that of course being Let me just get this out of the way first. I do think Dancing in the Flames is a good song, but after sitting on it for more than a month now, it really does not compare to The Weeknd's 2 previous lead singles, those of course being Heartless for After Hours and Take My Breath for Dawn FM. And spoiler, I am going to be doing a lot of comparisons to The Weeknd's 2 previous album rollouts, 1 because this album is meant to be part of a trilogy with those 2, and 2 because I think both Dawn FM and After Hours have had some of the best album rollouts I've ever experienced. So to say my expectations are high for this final Weeknd album ever is a gross understatement. Back to Dancing in the Flames though, I think my biggest problem with this first single is it just feels really commercial. Now, I know The Weeknd has been in the pop space for a while now. I mean, hell, he's consistently the most listened to artist on Spotify of all time. But something about this track really lacks that special spark that Abel is usually able to put into his poppier hits like Blinding Lights, In Your Eyes, and even Less Than Zero. And I think it's mostly because of the way his vocals are mixed on here. I feel like they remove a lot of emotion from his voice. Also evidenced by the fact that the more raw acoustic version is leagues better than the studio counterpart. And the production too, it just really leaves a generic taste in my mouth, even if some of the synth work is pretty cool. Also, I did want to mention the music video for the song as well. Is it just me or is it so lame? I mean, music videos are some of the most important aspects to establish the aesthetic of an album release, but this one just has nothing. Like with After Hours, you have the awesome Las Vegas aesthetic, the red suit and the glasses, and the bloody bandages all over Abel's face. Dawn FM has the old man makeup in the Purgatory Club setting, but the Dancing in the Flames video just feels so uninspired in comparison. And I know it sounds like I'm just ripping everything that has to do with this song, but again, I do like it overall. Just as a lead single for the final Weeknd album ever, and again, compared to Heartless and Take My Breath, it's very lacking. Fortunately though, the second single we got is easily my favorite of the 3. Ever since I was a chick, and why was this shit? Now I've got a reaction to Timeless that you can watch right here in the top right corner if you're interested in my immediate first thoughts. But as for how I'm feeling about it right now, while it is still my favorite of the 3 singles we've gotten so far, I still can't bring myself to absolutely love it, mainly because of the wasted potential. And I don't want to harp on this part too long since I know people tend to sound really annoying when it comes to mixing complaints, but man, this track could have really used a better mix. For a song going with this ethereal synth-pop trap vibe with a playboi carti feature, it's surprisingly dry at a lot of points, especially the vocals. And I hate to be that guy, but the live version is way better at capturing the real vocal chemistry that The Weeknd and Carti have. The lyricism too is pretty plain. Definitely reminds me of Beauty Behind the Madness / Starboy era Weeknd, which in my opinion at his lowest quality writing. To reiterate though, the track is still very strong in my opinion, the production is still phenomenal, Carti's part is ridiculously catchy, and I'll admit it could certainly work better as a Lucy single if anything. But again, the issue is mainly wasted potential. And talking about this music video, once again, it is insanely generic for The Weeknd standards. Like, it's literally just him and Carti in all black fits in some kind of warehouse or something and just standing there. Like, what happened to all the cool visual storytelling in the previous eras? Timeless is also the first track that displays another potential issue with Hurry Up Tomorrow, and that's a lack of consistency. Even when I first reacted to the song before it grew off me, I thought the sound of it was much more Carti-esque, to the point where I thought it could potentially be a single for his upcoming album. But as far as I've seen, Timeless is slated to be released on Hurry Up Tomorrow. And to me, putting it next to a synth pop track that doesn't even have swear words in it, and as you'll see with the next single, a straight up Brazilian funk track, it just doesn't make sense if you want to make a consistent sounding album. And speaking of that third single, yeah, São Paulo is easily my least favorite of the main 3 singles we've gotten so far, and probably the main inspiration for this video in all honesty. Now, I already talked about how this track just does not fit with the other 2 singles sound-wise in the slightest, but truthfully, I could get past that if the song ended up being really good, but it's just not. First things first, why is this thing like 5 minutes? Don't get me wrong, The Weeknd can make phenomenal longer tracks, but when it's essentially just a club song with very few dynamics in the instrumental, it just drags so much. I actually think that the music video version of the song that cuts it down to about 3.5 minutes is much more fitting. And don't worry, we'll go more in depth with the music video in a second since, what the fuck? But with this track, I also think neither The Weeknd nor the featured artist Anitta bring anything super special to the song. Again, lyrically, it features virtually no interesting themes besides, I guess, sex. And I get that it's a song meant to be focused on more of the vibe than anything, but if that's the case, then why not have this be a decent enough Anitta single, instead of the third single for, may I reiterate, the final Weeknd album ever? Like, compare this track to After Hours' title track, which itself was the third single for its record. That song is a borderline masterpiece, perfectly concluding the story of the respective album while still being an amazing standalone song. São Paulo, on the other hand, just seems like it's gonna be the K-pop of Hurry Up Tomorrow. And I should clarify, if this was like a Drake record or something where there isn't any concept of the album and the track listing order didn't really matter, it'd be a lot more digestible. But with the way The Weeknd has set this up as the final album in this new trilogy, it just doesn't make sense for it to have this lack of consistency. Now though, let's talk about this goddamn music video. I actually kinda like it. Don't get me wrong, it's very weird and kinda gross to see The Weeknd singing as the pregnant stomach of Anitta. New kink unlocked there for sure. But to be fair, the video did drop the night before Halloween, and at least it's attempting some cool cryptic kind of aesthetic, even if it is a strange one. Anyways, let's now talk about some of my miscellaneous complaints with the rollout. First of all, I want to mention the album cover. I still have mixed feelings about it in all honesty. On one hand, I do like the idea of it being just a picture of Abel without any fancy costume or prosthetics like After Hours or Dawn FM had, to symbolize that this record is going to be the most true to himself. But at the same time, the lack of anything striking in the picture makes it seem a little dull to me, especially when you compare it to the insanely cool collector's edition cover. I also want to mention the São Paulo concert that The Weeknd held that really kicked this whole album rollout off. And you could for sure argue that it's technically my fault for watching the concert before the album dropped, but I really don't like how many new tracks he previewed at this concert. While it does build a lot of hype in the moment, I feel like it ruins one of the best aspects of listening to a new album. That being, listening to a new track for the first time. Plus, when you perform most of the unreleased tracks on your album in full, they inevitably get affected by snippet syndrome, which for those who don't know is the effect where song snippets often sound better than their official releases. So by teasing a majority of the new tracks, again, in full, you're leaving fans to either be satisfied or disappointed with the inevitable final product, neither of which are a better feeling than being blown away on first listen in my opinion. I much prefer how Tyler the Creator rolled out Chromacopia for a recent example, where we got 1 or 2 singles as well as some 5-second teasers for some other tracks. And would you look at that? That's exactly the method that Abel used for After Hours and Dawn FM. And now the final thing I want to touch on with Hurry Up Tomorrow is simply, where the hell is it? Like, the first teaser that we got for this record was in early January of this year. I remember people were theorizing that the album was going to drop on Abel's birthday, which is in February. Cut to early November with still no release date in sight. And compared to After Hours and Dawn FM, both of which had rollouts of roughly 4 to 5 months, this one is really starting to drag in my opinion. Starting to almost feel like Abel's been spending too much time with Carti, right? Now, final thing I do want to clarify before we wrap up, I am fully aware that I could be totally wrong with my assumptions when this album eventually does drop. In fact, I'd love to be wrong about all of these claims, since it'd be insanely impressive to see if the record is able to blend all of these disjointed sounds together somehow. But with all of the information we have now, I hate to say it, but Hurry Up Tomorrow is shaping up to be a real whimper of an ending to The Weeknd's new trilogy. So yeah, those are pretty much all of my thoughts on The Weeknd's rollout for Hurry Up Tomorrow. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel to see new uploads from me every single Saturday and sometimes Wednesday, unless they say otherwise in my community posts. Also, leave a comment letting me know your whole opinion on this album rollout, since I feel like a lot of people are going to strongly disagree with me here. And finally, as always, if you'd like to support the channel further, you can now become a member and receive early access to all of my videos, as well as a special shout out from me at the end of them, as you'll see on screen right now. So join up if you're interested, it really does help me out a lot. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching.